The cuffs were an inch from my wrist when the front door blew open, and a woman in a wrinkled blazer yelled, "Stop right now!" Everything froze, even the music dripping out of the ceiling speakers. I stood there with a red handprint burning on my cheek, a security guard breathing stale coffee into my ear, and a half circle of employees grinning like they'd finally won a game they'd been playing all morning. Funny thing is, I'd only walked in to buy a dress for my granddaughter's graduation. My name's Evelyn Carter. I'm 69, a grandmother who still keeps mints in her purse and a tiny sewing kit for emergencies. I grew up sweeping barbershop floors in a town called Lakefield, North Carolina, and I learned early that some rooms are built to make you feel small. That day, the room had a name: Maison LaRue marble floors, glass cases, a perfume in the air that smelled like money, and something colder. I wore a navy sweater dress and flats. No designer bag, no big jewelry, just my wedding band and a pair of pearl studs that belonged to my mother. I hadn't even made it to the dresses when the manager clocked me. Sloan Whitaker's sharp blonde bob, a suit so tight it squeaked, looked me up and down like I'd tracked mud across her foyer. The sales section's in the back. She sang that bright voice people use when they want you to feel dumb. I smiled anyway. "I'm here for the main collection," I said. "My granddaughter's graduating next week. I want something with sleeves, a good hem." She blinked. "Our pieces start at 3,000, she said slow, like she was reading to a child. "We do offer alternatives. I've been told alternatives my whole life. Bus routes that took twice as long, doors around the back, clerks who said, 'We're actually closing with the lights still on.'" I let it slide, moved to a rack of dresses that felt like good paper between your fingers. Structured navy, a charcoal wrap, a soft cream that reminded me of the first church hat I ever bought with my own money. I asked about alterations. Sloane's smile tightened a notch. "2 weeks minimum," she said. "Might I show you our more approachable options?" When I drifted toward the jewelry case, that's when the temperature dropped. A cashier named Haley folded her arms like she was hugging herself against an invisible wind. A young clerk, Dylan, started snickering loud enough for his friends to hear. The sales associate, Brianna, pressed her lips together and stared at the lock like it was protecting the crown jewels. I pointed to a simple diamond necklace. Nothing gaudy, just a clean line of light. "May I see that one?" I said. Brianna's eyebrows reached for her hairline. "That's 12,800, she announced, like price tags were warnings. "I heard you," I said. "I'd like to see it." Brianna called out Sloan. "She wants to handle the 12.8, that's how she said it. The 12.8 like a hurricane category." Sloan strolled over, leaned on the glass, and still smiling said, "Ma'am, the department store 2 blocks down has lovely costume pieces that would flatter your budget." She made a little circle in the air at my outfit. My jaw wanted to clench. I made it stand still. "I'm a customer," I said softly. "You show I look, we both decide." "That's retail." "I decide," she said, and the smile dropped. "Not today." That was the moment, one breath, that tells you which kind of store you're in. I set my purse on the counter, pulled out my phone, opened the camera. "Then I'll document this," I said. "For my records." I didn't raise my voice, didn't reach, didn't threaten. Sloane's face went pink, then red. "You don't record in my store," she snapped, grabbing for the phone. I stepped back, clutching it to my chest. "Please don't touch me." Her hand flashed. The slap cracked the air like a dry twig. I tasted copper. Somewhere Dylan laughed, this high, mean sound that kids make when they think they'll never pay for it. A security guard lumbered over badge on the belt name tag, Pete, already fishing out handcuffs. "You're leaving," he said. "You're under arrest for disturbing the peace." "For what?" "Protecting my property," I asked, and my voice shook. He moved behind me. Sloan was practically clapping. Finally, she said, "Do your job." That's when the door burst and a woman ran in like she'd sprinted the whole block. Dark hair loose, blazer, wrinkled heels, scuffed. "Stop," she gasped, putting a flat palm between me and the cuffs, and the guard actually hesitated. "What have you done?" she asked, looking at my cheek, the red blooming like a sunset. "Seriously, Sloan, what exactly have you done?" Sloan tried to gather her composure. "Claudia, we had a situation." "A situation?" The woman, Claudia, echoed, eyes shining with a kind of horror. "I've seen at hospital bedsides." She turned to the staff, then back to me. Then she lifted her chin, and her voice settled like a storm finding its eye. Everyone listen, she said. This woman, she pointed at me, and for the first time all afternoon, I felt seen, is Evelyn Carter. She doesn't just shop here, she owns here. Silence hit like a wave. Phones lowered. Brianna stopped breathing. Dylan took a step back so fast he bumped the case. Sloan blinked, laughed once, short and ugly. That's ridiculous, she said. Claudia cut her off with a look I wouldn't wish on anyone. Evelyn Carter bought LaRue Atelier 5 months ago through a holding company. I'm the regional director. She's my boss's boss. I wish I could tell you I enjoyed the look on Sloane's face, the way she swayed like the floor tilted under her heels. But truth is, I just felt tired. Tired that it took money and secrets and a reveal to earn basic decency. Claudia's phone was buzzing in her hand, board members, legal PR, and with every vibration, Sloan shrank another inch. Pete, the guard, stared at his cuffs like they'd turned into snakes. Before anybody moves, Claudia said every camera feed gets preserved. No one deletes anything. She looked at Dylan. That means you. He went white as paper. I slid my phone into my purse and finally let myself breathe. I won't pretend I'm some saint. Something in me wanted a good old-fashioned dressing down voices, raise people run out the door by the back of their collars. But I've lived long enough to know yelling rarely changes what built the choice to be cruel. So I did what my mother taught me, stand up straight, call things by their names. One by one I did. Sloan, I said, and she flinched like her name was a doorbell for bad news. You sized me up and decided who I was based on my sweater and my skin. You refused service. You tried to take my phone, and when I wouldn't hand it over, I touched my cheek. You hit me. She started, tears in her voice now. I thought, you didn't think I said, you reached, Brianna. I continued, turning to the associate. You announced the price like it was a siren, not a number. You said it to stop me, not to help me. Her hands trembled on the case. I'm sorry, she whispered. Everyone isn't a shield, I said. Haley, I nodded at the cashier. You told me I'd be more comfortable somewhere else, code for you don't belong. Her eyes filled and she stared at the floor. Dylan, I said last, those noises you made, the little laughs you made them because you wanted the room to know I was a joke. And you wanted the room to reward you for it. He looked like a boy again, suddenly smaller in his too big name tag. I didn't mean, you meant to be cruel, I said, and left it there. Claudia handled the rest. Paperwork appeared like magic: termination forms, suspension notices, instructions for security. She read each one carefully. Hands steadier now. Sloan Whitaker, she said, for assault, discrimination, and creating a hostile environment. You're terminated effective immediately. Benefits revoked. You'll be escorted off premises. Sloan's breath hitched, then came in short, panic pulls. I have a mortgage, she said, and for a flicker, I felt a human ache for her. Then I touched my cheek again, and the moment passed. Brianna Tate, Dylan Cross, Haley Brooks, your employment is terminated for discriminatory conduct documented on video. You will not be eligible for rehire in our network. The words landed dull and heavy, one after the other, like books onto a table. Pete, the guard, took a step back and muttered, I was just following orders, Claudia asked. He shut his mouth. Here's what most folks won't tell you about moments like this. There's no clean victory dance. Even with the right thing happening, your stomach twists. People cry, call their mothers, stare at their shoes because they can't swallow the taste of what they did. I stood there steady, but the room kept replaying my mother's pearls, a hand the sound of skin. Claudia walked me to a small office, poured water into a paper cup, and said quietly, I'm so sorry. I nodded, stared at the ripple in the cup. This store isn't special, I said. It's just honest. She knew what I meant. I hadn't bought LaRue to play secret shopper for fun. I'd bought it because I wanted to know what our rooms do to people who look like me when nobody thinks the room is listening. That week, we did more than fire people. We changed who sat behind the counter. We promoted a woman named Priya Sharp by Gentle Hands to manager. We brought in Ramon from our Chicago location to rebuild the team. Funny guy knows how to make a nervous customer laugh without making them small. We hired for skill and heart and languages, Spanish, Vietnamese, ASL, because welcome sounds different depending on who you are. And we brought in real training, the hard kind hours of role play and history and practice that makes the mirror feel heavy. 3 days later, I walked back in wearing the same navy dress. The floor looked the same, but the air had changed. A teenage boy in a hoodie stood at the case pointing to a bracelet he wanted to buy for his mother. Priya didn't announce a price like a siren. She simply smiled, unlocked the case, and placed it in his hand, gentle, like it was a bird. A Latina grandmother asked something in Spanish, and Haley knew. Haley, different, woman, big grin, answered back without missing a beat. I watched an older man in work boots run a calloused finger along a silk tie and whisper, "Maybe one day," and Ramon chuckled and said, "Today can be that day." And the man laughed, and it wasn't a joke on him, it was an invitation. We didn't fix the world. We fixed one room. And maybe that's how you start. I still think about Sloane sometimes. Not with heat anymore, more like a question that won't quit. Who taught her the room was hers to police? Who taught Dylan that the fastest way to belong is to make someone else the punchline? Who taught me to dress down so strangers wouldn't? We all learn something somewhere. The unlearning. That's the long work. So tell me what's right. What's wrong here? Is zero tolerance the only way to make a room safe, or does change ever stick without consequences? Have you stood in a place and felt it measure you first, welcome you second? Drop your story in the comments. No names, no doxing, just truth. If you believe respect isn't a luxury item, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to be reminded a room doesn't decide your worth. You do. And the next time a door opens, make sure it opens wider for the person behind you.